Hello to all of you. Well, it's fantastic to be back at 2015. I can't believe how fast this year is actually going. And really, when one looks at it and considers how much has changed just in a very short 6 or 7 weeks that we've had this year, it's quite frightening to think that we're already kind of 15% of the way through this entire year. I do hope that most of you have had a fantastic start to the year. We've got a very exciting program this evening. And from my perspective, there's a lot to share with limited time. I'm also not 100% sure if we're going to have load shedding tonight, and so you're going to have to bear with me in terms of if it was to happen to me. I am just going to make sure, Brendan, just to let you know, Brendan, I'm going to make you an organizer as well, just so that we've got a little bit of redundancy here, just in case, so that everyone knows. So just in case I go down for some reason. But so without further ado, what I'd like to do is get started. We've got some great guests joining us this evening, which I'm really, really excited about. But I think what I wanted to do is to ask everyone to get started is, what do you think we're doing here tonight? What is the purpose of tonight? A lot of people think that it's all just about investment and property. But what is your thoughts? You know that there's a little box where you can go and write your comments. And please go and just type in what it is that you're thinking tonight. What is your thought process? What are you hoping to get out of tonight so that we can make sure that we hit the bullseye dead center? What is it that you're looking to get from this evening? I know you thought that you were all going to be able to come along and just sit and let myself and Clem and James and our other guests do all the work, but I really wanted to get you guys to take part and to get your minds in action. Okay, so we've got a couple here. Time to take action, offshore investment, information sharing, look at the global. The writing is on the wall in this country. And how's South Africa? Let me open this up.
I don't think there's that much. Fuck, where's my light?
Brendan, just quickly, mate, I can hear you. Anyway, I'm going to mute you now. Okay, so I can see there's lots of people that have sent through their comments, so thank you very much. Future of South Africa, good advice, etc., etc. Okay, so for those of you who haven't participated, there's going to be plenty of opportunities through this webinar for you to be able to do that. I am a firm believer that those that participate and use their brains will get a lot more out of it. Obviously, a huge amount of work has been put into this, but to make sure that you get the most out of it, you need to be in the game. There's effectively going to be a structure this evening. We're going to focus really to start off with on why we do what we do. You know, a lot of people think that it's quite difficult and it's hard to invest overseas. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is that when you understand the why, it's a lot easier to sort out the rest. I'm a big believer that when you know what you want, you can always get it. So we're going to start with the why. Then we're going to discuss the how and how we actually do it. And finally, we're going to go through the what. What specifically do we do? Now, in simple terms, at about 7:15, James Paynter is going to be joining us, and he's actually going to be discussing the Rand, what's happening with the Rand, the forecast of the Rand, and really the future of the Rand. And that's going to be very much part of the why and also part of the how. And then at about 7:30, Clem is actually currently presenting to, I think it's Marion Roberts, but he can confirm that when he comes online. And about 7:30, he's going to be joining us, and very much he's going to be asking and answering the questions in terms of the why, the how, and what do we do in terms of where we actually are. By the end of the evening, our number one objective is to provide people with the what. So ultimately, we want to provide you with the peace of mind that I, as an offshore investor, have, knowing that I've got a passport, I've got offshore assets, I've got an offshore income, and really, I can't explain to you how valuable and how comforting that peace of mind actually is. We also want to show you how you can get wealth preservation. How you can get wealth preservation. You know, at the end of the day, hang on. At the end of the day, you know, there's always good opportunities in the emerging world, but one wants to look after one's wealth. There can't be anything worse in life than building up your wealth and having it decimated by political or economic disruption. And then finally is the plan B. And Clem's going to talk a lot about this tonight, but ultimately when one's doing scenario planning, you've got to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, because you never really know what's going to happen. And I think that's the exciting thing with life, is that if you've got a number of different plans, then you'll be able to ultimately come up with a solution. But the most important thing that we want to share with people is freedom. And I'm going to share with you a story tonight as to why and how this is so important. But ultimately, we want to be able to give you the freedom so that you can make your own choices. You can choose where you want to live. You can choose where you want your children to go to school, whether you want them to go to university, where, who you want to donate your money to, when you can retire, etc., etc. And that is really something that we are quite passionate about. We're also going to share with you tonight, at the end, how you can go in the draw. We'll be launching this draw in the next couple of days, but as you're on the webinar, we'll let you know how we are ultimately going to be giving away 2 tickets to the semi and the final of the Rugby World Cup 2015 in London. It'll be a prize that's worth over 200,000 Rand, and we'll be sharing with you tonight how you can take access to that. And lastly, we're going to be sharing with you how you can get a generator, because we believe quite strongly that if you want to live in South Africa and want to continue living in our beautiful country, you need to be able to have a generator, or certainly some form of electrification, so that you're not at the mercy of Eskom and load shedding. And for a number of select people, we will be showing you how you can get a generator for free. It's quite complicated getting a generator. I know myself, because I had to do the research. I finally understood it all. I've got us some suppliers, and ultimately we've got a solution to be able to help a number of our key partners, who ultimately want to get a generator. So, and the final thing we're going to do at the end of this evening is we're going to show you how with as little as $10,000, you can actually be investing in the best real estate residential in America. We've also got an opportunity coming up in the near future in both Australia and in the UK, including London. I'm going to London in less than 2 weeks, but that gives you an example of what is possible. And we're also going to show you how you can invest in some of the best commercial opportunities. We've got some great opportunities in Australia and in the US. My partners have both just got back from both those, and again, allowing you to invest with as little as $100,000 and ultimately participate. So really, I want to come back to the why. That's what the objective is tonight. That's what we're going to achieve. But I want to get back to the why. And I want to start with a story. And it's a story of 2 brothers. These 2 brothers lived in Africa. And the one was, they both grew up on a farm. And ultimately, the one was passionate about farming. He didn't have a plan. And unfortunately, when there was political and economic upheaval, he was forced to leave the farm and ultimately leave the country. And literally, he left the country with the clothes on his back. They took what they had in a car, and they drove. They immigrated. In the new country, they had to set up. They couldn't be farmers. They had to go back to university, and he had to go back to university and restudy. And ultimately, he ended up having to work for someone who was 7 years younger than him as his clerk and be bossed around. His belief was that they could take anything away from him. They'd taken his farms away, but they could not take away his knowledge. And so he gave his children the best education possible so that they too would have that flexibility. And after 19 years of immigrating to the new country, all that he had ever wanted to do was to run his farm and to be in control of his own destiny and ultimately to work for himself. And so at the age of 49, he started a company. But unfortunately for him, about 3 months in, he got sick. And he didn't have that much business experience, or certainly not entrepreneurial experience. He had bet the house on the company, and ultimately within 6 months the company gone bankrupt and he had lost the house. And unfortunately, this brother actually passed away 10 years later. He had less than 50 Rand in his account, and he had had a very challenging 10 years when it came to health. There was another brother. This brother was passionate about business, and his philosophy was, in chaos, one doesn't necessarily run away, because in chaos, there's always opportunity. And so rather than, immigrate, he moved from the farm to the city, and he ultimately set up his own business. The business was very successful, and he made a lot of money. But every time that he made money, because in that chaos, there's great opportunity, but as he made money, he made sure that he invested in first world assets and first world income. He lived an idyllic lifestyle in Africa, with all the trappings that people of Africa aspire to. But in 2003, he decided it was time for his family to immigrate to another land, Australia. Now, most of you will know, or anyone that has looked into it, after the age of 45, it is very hard to immigrate to Australia. But because of his planning, 23 years earlier, he was able to ultimately buy his way in to Australia. He used his global wealth to ultimately get him into the country and get his passport. And some would say there's nothing better than an Australian passport. But when he arrived in the country, he had a problem. He didn't have any credit, and so he couldn't get a home loan. And so he bought his house for cash, but not just a box, something that he would be very proud of and that was up to his current living standards. He sent his kids to private schools, and today he's a very, very proud dad, as his son has recently his son is one of the top rowers in Queensland, and has recently just been offered some opportunities to go to universities like the best university in Australia is the University of Melbourne, Harvard, Oxford, and Cambridge. As a father, he has been, with his global wealth, has the ability not only to put his kid through the best schooling, but ultimately to have the global wealth to afford, should his kid want to go to any of those universities. When he moved, he kept his businesses going, and so he could work on his terms and not have to work for an Australian. Because I have met too many people in my time that have moved over without planning and ultimately have to go from being a general to a foot soldier. And when his brother was ill, he was able to support his brother financially for the last 10 years. But the question is, how did he do it? And what was the difference between the two brothers? I grew up with a father and an uncle, and I spent the last 30 years of my life focusing on this question and designing my life to follow my uncle and ensure that I too had this freedom of choice. I decided at a very young age that I wanted to make sure that I understood business. I did my very first property project when I was 13, renovating this house. I did my first property development when I was 22. I bought my first house in London when I was 24. And I started IPS when I was 26. And we've subsequently helped thousands of South Africans invest internationally, both in South African investments, London investments, Australian investments, and American investments. Not only residential, but also commercial and industrial. But the most important thing was that through this experience, I realized that it was all about freedom. I realized what we were passionate about, and as a company, it was about freedom and how we could actually help other people be empowered and have that same freedom that my uncle had in comparison with my father that immigrated without any planning. And so I have a poll for you, and I want you to answer this question. Do you think you should be investing internationally, just based on the very personal experience I've had of watching two people who were very, very close to me? But the next question a lot of people will be asking is, we kind of know it. We intrinsically sit there and think to ourselves, this is something we should probably do. But the question is why now? So I can see that 58% of people have voted. Would like you guys to partake in this, please. But the question is, why now? And the reason really is that we basically have three major forces that are all coming together at the same time for us as South Africans. It's a tsunami of change that we are having to deal with. And ultimately, like Clem is going to show you, we need to be able to make a plan. We need to be able to adapt. The first one is the economic forces. And this was literally, I got this in the business class lounge flying back at the end of last week. And I thought it was the front page of the Star Business Report. And I thought it pretty much sums up the economics as we sit at the moment. We've got problems with the rand. It's the weakest since 2002. We've got Zuma and his leadership, and we've got Eskom and the major burdens we've got with Eskom at the moment. And, it was only on, I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday night, when on top of that, along with the leadership, we had the politicians punching each other. But when people look at it, we did the research in our book, Property Going Global. And for the last 30 years, year on year, us South Africans have lost roughly 29%. Year on year, 29%. Every single year, it gets harder for us to make sure that we stay the same on a global scale. It gets harder to immigrate. It gets harder to buy first world assets. It gets harder to go on holiday. It gets harder to provide your children with whatever opportunity you want, whatever education is, whatever university it is. And ultimately, it gets harder to retire. So something that I found fascinating, and I got this through last week, but there's a report that comes out with the Global Rich List. And you can actually see down the bottom here, because of the weakness of the rand in 2014, we actually lost 29% of the entire country's wealth. So it's quite interesting when you look for validation of the research we did in the Property Going Global book. But there it is, 2014, the entire country. If you look at our country and its balance sheet, just last year, we lost 29% in terms of where we actually are. Wendy and Peter said our speakers are working according to sound check, but we're not getting any sound from your presentation. Has anyone else got any challenges with sound? Please just let me know. Okay, so I think Wendy and Peter, it might be on your side. The rand has lost over 6% year on year against the US dollar for the last 30 years. And the most scary thing is that the US dollar is not even the best performing currency on the planet. The Singapore dollar has increased by 72% against the US dollar in the last 10 years. And yet the rand has been devaluing against it for literally the last 30 years. Now, what that means in simple terms is that if you can get a 15% return in South Africa and you can get a 9% return in America, you have to compare an apple with an apple, because long term they are equivalent to each other. And it's something very, very important that you need to take into account. And so it brings me on to our first expert that I would like to bring online. And hopefully James is online here. Let me look for him quickly. Where are you hiding, James? James, Paynter. There we are. Okay, so James, we should be able to hear your voice recording. Can we hear you, James? Just getting audio here from James quickly. James, are you live?
Hi, Scott. Am I live?
Yeah, we got you clearly. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, 100%. So, James, listen, thanks so much for being on. Okay. I really, really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, James and I have worked together for, many years now. I don't know exactly. But James was a big contributor in our book. He actually wrote in the book the whole of chapter 2 for people that want to understand currency. And anyone that wants a copy of the book, just type in Property Going Global or PGP, PGG, sorry, Property Going Global, PGG. And we will make sure that everyone online gets it. But I think in very simple terms, the thing that I'm fascinated by James is that he's got very sophisticated systems and ways to track the rand. He's had an accuracy of over 80% since 2005, which I think is amazing when one considers the volatility. And for someone who's simple like myself, when James, it's like when he picks up the bonnet of an engine and starts explaining it. And I don't really care how the car works. I just want to be able to get from A to B. But in simple terms, James explained it to me that he's like the weatherman. He looks at patterns, and just like the weatherman with all their experience can look at patterns and tell us whether it's going to be sunny or raining, he can help us make the right decisions based on the forecast. And so with that, I wanted to hand over to you, James. I'm always fascinated, and I do tell people a lot about the story. I think it was about a year and a half ago where We were sitting at 8 Rand 88 to the dollar. You had 202 people in the room. You specifically said to them that it will go over 10 Rand to the dollar. I asked you the accuracy. You said 90%. And within less than 6 weeks, it went over 10 Rand to the dollar, and it's never recovered. And so just tell us a little bit about where we are and what's happening with the Rand and what people can expect.
Okay, thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to catch up again. Have I got the ability to share my screen, or you just want me to talk off what you've got here?
I can share screens with you. 2 seconds. There we are. So I've given you screen control now. While James is getting that up live, I'm just putting up a poll. Where do you want to invest? Are you looking at South Africa? Are you looking at the USA? Are you looking at Australia? Are you looking at the UK? Or are you looking at other? If people could just vote quickly while James is getting ready. And then, James, as soon as you're ready, just let me know and I can drop the poll. So the sooner people vote, the sooner they get to see your fascinating research and tell us where we're going.
Okay, well, I'm ready, but
let's give it 10 more seconds. I can see that people are voting here just in terms of where it is. It's always fascinating to get people to use their brains, and then they can actually think rather than you and me doing all the talking. But for Christian Becker and people that are writing it in, Corey van Rooyen, please you can use the poll and to make it easier. Okay, let's close off that poll. Back to you, James. So if you can, you should have screen control now, and you can just go share your screen so everyone can see your screen.
Share my screen. You see it now?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Right. Yeah, so just to give a broad overview here, this is look at the Rand from the 1990s to where we are today. And as you can see, the Rand moved from, I think it was 2 Rand 50 or so in 1990 to, we touched last week, as your newspaper said, we hit our worst levels since 2002 here. So we've been weakening for the past, since 2011, so almost 4 years of weakening here. So that's just, giving you a broad view as to overall the Rand is weakened.
Okay.
Go to the next screen, sorry. Oh, there we go. Now, just to overlay that, there are two drivers of the Rand. And the one is fundamentals, and that determines the long-term trend. So we've got the long-term trend here in red. But then we've got these huge swings either side of the long-term trend. And that is caused by sentiment, mass sentiment, which determines the intermediate trends. Okay, so whereas the long-term trend will give you that 5 or 6% that you were talking about year on year. To find out where the Rand is going in the medium term, we actually need to look at sentiment, which, as you've been speaking about, is patterns. There are patterns of sentiment. And those patterns of sentiment drive the Rand from one extreme to the other. As extreme of sentiment as sentiment goes from one extreme to the other. So normally what you find down here, and you found that out yourself, Scott, is that when the Rand is strong, persons are complacent. When the Rand is weak, very weak, people are panicking. And once everyone has panicked and taken action, what we find then is the market moves again in the opposite direction. So I'm not going to go into the details of the fundamentals and then the sentiment, unless you want me to.
No, I think the most important thing that I'm interested in, and I think, James, two things for everyone who's online. Firstly, is that we've got two webinars from you where, for over half an hour, whatever it was, you and me went into the actual fundamentals, the details, how the car works, and then also if anyone wants the book, they can read it in detail. They can look at all the graphs. What I think people should look at, and I don't know if you've got them there, or if you want to come back to my screen because I've got them. But I'm interested in two graphs. One is and I downloaded it on Monday because I'm a subscriber to your service because the forecasting of the Rand is critical to my business and what we do. But, I looked at the short-term forecast and also the long-term forecast, and I was just interested as to where you are. I do need to call, just so that everyone knows, I do need to call Clem Sunter at 7:30 on the nose. So just in terms of where we're at.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'll do is just go through. This is what we spoke about, the fundamentals and sentiment. The big driver here is sentiment in the Forex market. But let's just go to where we are now on the long-term outlook. And this is something I actually updated this week, Scott. So it's more recent than what you got on yesterday.
Okay.
What we've got here is that we've had, perhaps I'll go to this next screen first of all, is we've had a 30-year uptrend from 1970 through to 2001, end of 2001. And since then, we've had this period of consolidation and correction. And that ended in 2011. In terms of the long-term sentiment, that was the end of this corrective pattern, and we are now in a long-term uprising pattern. So where we are looking to go over the next, looking 5 years out, is in this 14 to 21 area. If we just take all the detail out, or the shading out here, what you've seen here is we've had a break above that 2008 high, okay, which is significant, and that means that we are still going to go higher. But we are reaching a point of extreme sentiment at the moment. And one very good indicator of extreme sentiment, Scott, is front page news. And you showed us headlines last week. The Rand is its weakest since 2002. They're showing that the sentiment has got to the point where it's now reaching front page news. And our patterns are getting to that point of extreme as well. So where we've had 3 years of uptrend here, or weakening of the Rand, there probably be a bit more. We're likely to go over 12, but we are then looking for a correction or consolidation back down to probably the 10 area before we then head weaker again.
Just from my side, James, hang on, I just need to sort out the echo here. Okay, the reason there's an echo is that I've just phoned in so that I can get Clem on live. So you should be able to hear me clearly through the phone.
I can hear you, yes.
Just while I'm going to get Clem online now, talk to me just in terms of the probability. I mean, you spoke about the 90% probability in the past. I see that you've got an 80% probability that we're going to 14 to 21, and then a 20% probability that we're going to recover a little bit, but we're still going to go there. Pretty much there's a 100% probability we're going to go there. It's just a matter of time. Would you mind just talking about that while I get Clem on?
Yeah, the 80% probability, well, it's 100% probability we're going into this area, but
your call has been
what we
placed on hold.
expected to do is to come back and test this trend line. if we break that trend line,
Your call
we
has
then
been
should
placed on
have a
hold.
deeper.
Please wait.
And then we'll rise up into this area. Can you hear me, Scott?
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
James, you're
Can you
coming
hear me,
through
Scott?
clearly. Yeah, you can carry on.
Okay. All right. I'm just getting some message from your webinar service. Been placed on hold.
No. It's, I'm sorry. I'm here. You should. The meter was on hold.
Okay. So effectively, we're looking at this trend line here, which comes down at about at 10 at the moment, which we should be testing. If we break through that successfully, we then could see a deeper retracement. But ultimately, we are still looking above 14, in the next 4 or 5 years.
Wow. And then, I mean, if you take the next year, what do you think basically?
Well, the next year I think is going to be a consolidation and corrective year. Probably the next few months, couple of months, we should see more weakening. But after that, we should see some substantial strengthening. Back down towards, I'd say, towards year end, maybe we could be heading towards that 10 level.
Okay.
Yeah, before we see further weakness.
And I mean, in terms of the probability of that happening and getting back down to 10, I mean, that's the best case scenario. What is the chance of that?
Of getting back down to 10? Yeah. I'm giving that an 80% chance.
Okay, so quite a high chance, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is why this is so important, basically, in terms of actually being able to get through, and ultimately, why James and what he does is so important. The one thing that I do believe, which is probably the most important thing to say, and then I need to get Clem online here, is that the real thing when you're investing offshore is that you should be taking a 5-year view. And if you're trying to gamble in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or with all due respect, 1 or 2 years, 3 years even, you're gonna make mistakes. And we always take a 5-year view plus. And that's why for me it's the long-term trend lines that I'm looking at, and the 80% probability, well, to be fair, 80% and then 20%, which adds up to 100%, that we're going to be between 14 to 21. So those are the long-term trend lines that I think are very important. Let me just I'm not sure. I know it's coming through here, but I'm just going to get Clem back online here.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just continue for a little bit. He's obviously still engaged there, but he did. James, what I suggest, if you don't mind, I'm going to, is there anything else on the side? And then I wanted to bring the screen back to myself. And I've got some slides that I wanted to actually introduce Clem on so that people can actually understand it and hear what's going on.
There wasn't anything more from our side except perhaps if persons want to know a little bit more about why the rand is so important, what I did do was just put a link here to our website where we've actually, this is one of, if you remember, this is a little booklet we handed out at your roadshow last year, and persons can then can get that off our website.
Okay, fantastic. Well, what I would suggest probably, if anyone's interested, just write RAND, and then we, one of our asset managers will be able to make sure. So either write RAND or take that link down, or maybe James, if you could copy that link and just share it with everyone on the chat, and I'd really appreciate that, basically. Okay, so I'm going to just bring the presentation back to myself, and then I can share with it. And I've just got the presenter, show my screen, PowerPoint. Okay, so I think what's really, really important, and James has showed you, and I mean, I'm just showing you, these are the graphs that I get from him. I tend to talk to James on probably every quarter, I would say, James, just to try and get an idea what's happening. as a real estate investor, it's not that important in the very short term. But, between what he showed us there in terms of the short term and the long term forecast, that is what is so important. The next thing, which is critically important as an economic force, and James, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And, if you can hang around that would be great. If not, you've given people plenty of resources to be able to get more information. So thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
So in terms of the social forces, this is something that in South Africa really is having a big impact on all of us. And, ironically, a lot of people have said to me, and I include myself in this, people can put up with crime and some of the challenges we've got in South Africa. But really, for me, the load shedding has really kind of knocked me off my perch and really kind of annoyed me dramatically. We've actually got quite an exciting innovation coming out in the next couple of days, and so I highly recommend you watch your emails. So this was a picture of me and my son trying to read him a bedtime story with a candle with load shedding, and I finally had enough. I've gone out and bought myself a generator, like I said, but it's having a massive impact on people, their opinion, the future, the positivity. And, a country is just like a company. If it's positive and everyone's working together and there's clarity, then they're going to get results. If there's not, there's negativity, it goes into a downward spiral. And that's what load shedding is having on the population, the people, and business, basically. Then you look at what's happening in terms of, the whole land and the whole problem with the property rights. We've effectively got the land being reviewed now with the green paper on land in April. We've got Zuma coming out in the speech last week talking about land. I would highly recommend you go and look at Agribusiness and what they're doing in terms of the property crisis. You can also go and look at the webinar that we did in November last year. It's on YouTube. Just put in my name or IPS or Wealth Migrate and put in land and it will come up. Or if you want to just type in land, we can actually send you the YouTube thing. But it was quite horrifying. We had the Deputy Minister of Land Affairs online. We had some of the best economists online, and it was quite interesting to talk. And we're actually looking to redo that in early May after the April Green Paper, so that we can get their point of view of what's happening. I think the most interesting thing that worries me from a South African perspective is that people don't understand that there are literally 14 bills that are being tampered with at the moment to affect not just land rights, but property rights as a whole. And that will have a massive impact on the future of our country and what it is that we actually do. And then, in terms of wealth preservation and business, this came out at the end of last year where Billiton, Rio Tinto, and Anglo American are all looking to pull out of South Africa. The attractiveness has dropped because of electricity shortages, labor unrest, weakening currency, and uncertainty, from government regulation. It's the same stuff we're hearing over and over again. And I'm not going to spend time going through it from a negativity perspective, but it is something that we certainly need to be able to understand and the impact that it is really having. Okay, so let me just try again and see if Clem's available.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. His phone's going straight to voicemail. I will endeavour to get hold of him, but let me continue and I'll go through the stuff that I was going to go through, and then once we get him online, he'll be able to assist. So I think, the most important thing when people look at what is actually happening with regards to the social forces, and I come back to the story of my uncle, is that we also want to be able to have the freedom to choose. We want to be able to have the freedom to choose when the electricity goes on, when the lights go off. We want to have the freedom to choose which school our children go to. I'm hearing more and more stories of people whose children can't get into the degrees they want to do, and they want to send their children overseas. And ultimately, we want to make sure we're passionate about giving people the freedom to be able to, decide where you want to live, and most importantly, the freedom of your choice in terms of what it is that you're looking to achieve in terms of your bigger picture. And then the last thing, which is a massive force, is the transformative power of technology and the force that brings. And really, up until now, it was really a case of what was basically most people would just invest locally in their hometowns or their home regions, or certainly in their home countries. And what really has transpired now is the ability to invest, not just locally, not just if you live in Durban, but ultimately in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and to be fair, now globally, where you can invest in the best opportunities. And that was what the internet has allowed us to do. Just in the same way as we can shop anywhere online with Amazon or eBay, and we can trust the service, trust the system other than the South African Postal Service, but we can trust the internet. That is what is happening from a transformative perspective in terms of where we actually are. The second thing that is massive is the adoption of technology. So most of you will be sitting on this webinar. Most of you will actually have access to a cell phone, to a computer. And, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you might have used your computer to literally send emails, possibly some of you internet dating. But with time, you embraced it more. You started doing internet banking. Then you started purchasing stuff online. You're ultimately doing everything now. Most of us are doing a lot over our mobiles. Smartphones, there's going to be 1 billion smartphones in Africa by 2016, and there's already more smartphones on the planet than there are human beings now in 2015, which is fascinating. So as we adopt that technology, it's allowing us, and the last step and the last hurdle is in investment and ultimately allowing us. And in the same way that we trust Uber to get into taxi safely, or we trust TripAdvisor to go on a holiday safely, this will ultimately help us invest safely in quality assets. And the last part is a regulatory change that has really allowed this to take place. So what is happening with regards to the government changes around the world and allowing people to access the best opportunities, technology, and ultimately changing 20th century laws to allow for 21st century technology changes. So those are the three major forces that have come about, basically. And when okay, so I'm getting a message here that Clem is available. Let me try and get him online quickly.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
Robin, I can't talk on my phone, and so it's going straight to voicemail. If you could figure it out, Brendan or one of you figure it out and call him and patch him in on this call, please, so that I'm talking through while I'm doing this. So sorry for everyone online. It's going straight to voicemail when I phone him, but he's sending a message saying, please call him. I can't do both at the same time. So what I wanted to talk about while we wait to get Clem online is ultimately what is the big idea. And really, when one looks at what's happening from an economic perspective and the concerns that we all have in terms of what is happening, where the rand is going, and what is the future, then we look at the social concerns and just the mere framework of what is happening and what is changing. And then finally, the enabling force, which is the technology force. And our big idea is that we are providing a solution, a safe and simple solution for investors who are tired of having their wealth eroded. They're concerned about the future of South Africa, and all that they're looking is for a safe and simple solution to invest in quality first world assets and earn a first world income, exactly like my uncle did, all those years ago. And ultimately, exactly like my uncle achieved, that allows you to have wealth preservation, a plan B, and peace of mind. And, that I cannot explain to people is so, so important. We tend to say to people, it is not a listed sector investment. It is not the stock market. It is not tied to sentiment or the volatility of the markets. It's a direct investment in an asset, and it helps you earn a first world income. But most importantly, our solution comes with trust, transparency, and ensuring that everyone's interests are actually aligned. So that brings me on to really where I wanted to bring Clem in. And we got Clem online.
No, it's Brendan here. Can you just please text me his number? I will dial him into the GoToMeeting for you.
Okay.
Scott, I'm busy trying to phone him, but I've messaged him.
Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to keep going there. They do tend to say in terms of in Africa, we're very good at chaos management, and this is one of those classic moments where we had it all agreed that I can't get through. So I'll send you a quick message, Brendan, with his number, okay? Okay, so while Brendan is hopefully patching Clem in, what I just wanted to share with everyone is that for most of you, most of you know who Clem is. He's recognized as one of the top 3 most respected businessmen in South Africa, who's had one of the biggest influential changes on the path of our country over the last 30 years. He's involved with Nelson Mandela and the changes from 92 to 94 in the Constitution. He's written the book Mind of a Fox by Chantal Ilbery and himself, and I would highly recommend you get the book. There's a trilogy in terms of the book, and ultimately their website, Mind of a Fox, you can go to it and get all the updates in terms of their scenarios and what is ultimately happening. And what I did for 5 years is that I went along to Clem's different presentations, consistently heard him talk about the global scenarios and the South African scenarios, and I thought to myself, well, it's all good and well having this information, but how do I actually go about understanding and making decisions based on that information? And so I went about it and I created a 4-dimensional model, because the way that Clem works is that they've got a flag system. Now, I've just used the shark system because most people understand it. It's very easy, and I can't go online, dude, because I can't mute my phone. So the flag system is very easy for people to understand. When there's a white flag, there's a shark in the sea, don't get in. And the way that their scenario planning works is that they look for the different challenges that are out there in terms of what is actually happening, both in the global scenarios and in the South African scenarios. Now, I don't have time tonight, and I'm not going to ask Clem either to go through this. You can read about it in my book. It's in Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. But ultimately, they've got 4 scenarios for the global economy. They've got 3 scenarios for the South African economy. And what that ultimately allows one to do with our 4-dimensional model, including all the different research, so you can look, and something that we'll be going through at the breakfast is going through a huge amount of detail in terms of the Australian market, the UK market, the American market, and the South African market. I personally have been to all 3 of those markets, including South Africa, so all 4 of those markets in the last 6 months. And as I said to you, I'm going to London in 2 weeks, so I can give people a very accurate, updated information as to what is actually physically happening on the ground in terms of where we actually are. So, I mean, this research is all in the book, and I highly recommend that you can go through it. I'm going to try one more time.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
Okay, I'm going back online. I'll leave it to Brendan and Jaco and Robin to figure it out in terms of getting hold of him. So this research is highly recommended. It's from The Economist. And what we do is we take all of Clem's research. We take the latest information. I literally downloaded this today in terms of where we actually are. And what that allows us to do is build a 4-dimensional model, which we as South Africans can then make decisions as to where we want to invest based on the different scenarios. So the Premier League is where the country stays, as it has been for the last 20 years. The second division is where as Clem mentioned, it's poor but peaceful. And ultimately, the third division is where we drop down and it's a failed state and it's chaotic and people leave and we've got a lot of problems in terms of where we actually are. So that is a real challenge, and it's certainly not where we go. The worrying thing is that before Eskom even went down this road, they basically, Clem and Chantal had us at a 25% probability. And what I was hoping to do tonight, and hopefully we're going to get Clem online, and Robin and Brendan, please can you communicate? Because Robin sent me a message saying he's trying to get hold of us. So, I'm interested as to what's happening with the load shedding and the impact in terms of this different scenario planning. What this allowed us to do is to build out the global property system. And the global property system, rather than making gut feel decisions as to where we should be investing, why we should be investing, I personally have invested in London, Australia, America, and South Africa. So I've got a huge amount of experience in these different markets. And there's very few people that can talk with the level of experience we've got in terms of the different markets, both the pros and cons in terms of residential and commercial. So I'm not necessarily caught up in one place or one market. We look at the different opportunities and the fundamentals of those markets. And with the global property system, which is this four-dimensional model, it allows you with a safe and tested and scientific system to make educated and informed decisions. It's based on a number of fundamentals. And again, when we've got more time at the breakfast, I will go into this in detail in terms of the research and what has actually happened. There's four major fundamentals when one takes it into account when it comes to property. The first one is the economics. What is happening in the economy of the country? And this is where the scenarios from Clem Sunter come into play. The second one is the discounts. So whether you're buying property or whether you're buying shares, if you buy it at a discount, there's far less risk. So at the moment, London is full value properties. So it's like buying shares at the top of the stock market. You're a lot more exposed than if you're buying property in Atlanta, as an example, where you're still buying below replacement cost and therefore got a lot less risk. If you take the third fundamental, it's got to do with population growth and supply and demand. It's one of the most important things for determining long-term safety and sustainability. When you look at what happened in terms of the different markets, America, Ireland, Cyprus, Spain, Portugal, all those markets after the global financial crisis imploded quite badly. And the reason being is that there was more supply than there was demand. Whereas in Australia, South Africa, and the UK, as an example, even though we were all affected by the global financial crisis, there was more demand than there was supply. And the last one is the rule of law. And a lot of people don't take that into account. But somewhere like India basically has everything working for itself, but yet there's no rule of law. South Africa, our rule of law is dropping more and more. I'm personally looking to sell all my properties in South Africa other than my home. It's too much effort here. I've had enough in terms of trying to manage it and put up with CCMA and rental tribunals and basically useless, incompetent management agents as well. I cannot explain to you how much easier it is when you own a first world asset, be it residential or commercial, in comparison with what you've got used to in South Africa and ultimately the frog in boiling water. And what this allows you to do is that gives you a risk index. On the other side, you've got a yield index, a yield return, and it's a balance. It's a 70% weighting on income and only a 30% on capital growth. Because from our experience, and the biggest lesson I learned in the global financial crisis is those people that focus on income will not only survive but will thrive, and those people that focus on capital growth bet against winter, and it's only a matter of time until it comes. You can have fancy double structures and double tax structures, and you can try and cheat the banks, and you can try and remortgage one property over another. But at the end of the day, if you bet against winter, winter will arrive, and you'll be caught with your pants down. And that is what happened to so many individual investors here in South Africa, including the big property funds. And what this allows you to do is ultimately to have a simple model in terms of where you are. And if you look here, I updated this just this morning. You'll see the USA is still sitting the only one in high return, low risk. Australia is sitting in low return, low risk. The South Africa is sitting in high return, high risk. And then you've got India, the UK, you've got Singapore, China, Japan, and Cyprus, all sitting in low return, high risk. And the beauty with this system is that it allows us, we can populate any figures from any countries to be able to update and to see what is going on. So let's see who's still awake and what is ultimately happening. Let's look here in terms of the different areas. And I want to launch a quick poll and find out, are you interested in residential, commercial, funds, syndication, or crowdfunding? So I want to find out what everyone's interested in. So if you can give me your feedback, it'll just give me some idea in terms of the level of understanding and what it is you're looking for. Okay, so I can see that about 70% of people have voted, so that's fantastic. And let's close out that poll. So what I really want to do now is, in terms of this is the reason, and ultimately what happened was this system that about 3 years ago I shared with Clem Sunter, and he was so impressed by it that he actually endorsed the model, and is the reason that he wrote the foreword on the book, because he actually said to me, you need to go out and share this with the world. You need to share this with South Africans in terms of what's happening. And there's all the different numbers in the research. My intention tonight is not to go through that, but ultimately to be able to share that with you at the breakfasts. One thing that we do talk a lot about is passports. A lot of people want to be able to get access to passports, and a lot of people make mistakes. Over 80% of South Africans that invest overseas actually lose money. And the reason that they lose money is because they go and try and buy an asset thinking they're going to get a passport. In my experience, they are mutually exclusive. It's like buying a boat. However, saying that, we've done a huge amount of work, and we've made some very good progress both in Australia and in the USA in terms of finding quality partners on the ground. And it looks like we've got solutions on the horizon for people to buy good quality assets in both the USA and in Australia and be able to get residency and a passport. As an example, one of our partners in Australia is helping people invest in real estate, so in property opportunities in Australia, build a business. And the best part about it is they don't even have to move to Australia. They can ultimately get a passport while still living in South Africa. So that's certainly something. If you are interested in a passport, just type in passport, and we'll be able to further assist you. So I'm not quite sure what has happened with Clem, but what I would like to do is move on, because there's another guest that we've also got online, and I just want to see if he's online or whether I'm going to call him as well. But this is one of our partners who's actually on the ground in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the areas that we've basically done some of the most business in. It's really one of the best performing areas that we've been involved in. And what I wanted to share with people, I wanted to basically give this gentleman a call and ultimately let him give us his guidance in terms of what's happening in the market, how we get access to the opportunities like the one that's on the screen in terms of where we actually are. So give me 2 seconds just while I get him online here, basically. So 935 472 489. Okay, so you should be able to hear me coming back through.
Okay, so you should be able to hear me there coming through as the phone caller. I'm just going to text you.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait. Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
Hi, Clem. We'll get you on in a second. Fuck's sake, Scott, get off the... Hello, I've got him on the line. Can you patch me in on your phone? Yeah.
the sort of public authorities for foreign investment. And so, yeah, we are sitting at that second crossroads, and it's a very critical moment in our history because we can undo all the good work that we've done politically if we get the economics wrong. We're the exact opposite of China. China did the economics, now it's got to do the politics. We did the politics, and now we've got to do the economics.
And I mean, tell me, Clem, you know, obviously as a passionate South African who wants to live here, you wrote a fascinating article just last week on Eskom and you know the implications that's happening and obviously the economics and the planning. What are your thoughts on what's happening and what people can expect?
Well, all I said in the article was rather like, and it was a brilliant book called The Big Short by Michael Lewis, who basically said that one of the reasons that people gave a AAA, or the rest agencies gave a AAA rating to these subprime mortgage bonds was they never thought all of them were going to bust at the same time, but they did, and that's what created the financial crash in 2008. And, you know, one of the reasons that Eskom was given for Eskom having so many power stations is that they're independent of one another, and if one fails, then the other can take up the slack. But unfortunately, we have this kind of correlation between our power stations that they're all getting old. the skills base has been under pressure, which it is in most industries, and that we haven't got the sort of brand new power stations like Medupi online. And so the possibility of a real grid crash has risen, and Eskom is doing its level best to try and keep it on, keep it up and running by load shedding and using gas and diesel and all these other kind of sources, but it doesn't sort of hide the underlying problem that we're just not running our infrastructure, whether we're talking of electricity or schools or hospitals, in the way that in the private sector you have to manage things properly, because you simply will go out of business if you don't. There just isn't that same level of accountability.
So, I mean, when one looks at it, I asked you at the end of last year what your thoughts were, and I explained a little bit before you came online your different scenarios and how they can find it at both your website and in your books. But where are we? I mean, in terms of you and Chantal, are you guys looking at changing the scenarios for South Africa and certainly the probabilities between the Premier League, the second division, and the failed state?
No, well, I mean, I think, funnily enough, right now, our probabilities are absolutely spot on, which is 50% for staying in the Premier League and 25 each for second division and a failed state, which is exactly what a tipping point is. It can tip either way. And, we just need a completely new kind of game in South Africa, which encourages entrepreneurs and small business. As I say, if we want to stay in the Premier League, we've got to create 1 million new businesses in South Africa by 2020. That will create the 5 million jobs. But certainly, if we don't have that kind of entrepreneurial revolution in South Africa, it's very difficult to see how we as a nation can stay in the Premier League, particularly as other African countries right now are going through their own version of an entrepreneurial revolution and are doing very well. 5 of the top 10 economies in terms of growth, economic growth in the world right now are in Africa, and we're sadly lacking behind. And somehow we've got to unleash the entrepreneurial talent we have in this country in the same way that other countries in Africa are doing it.
Well, I spoke a little bit before to you about this, but we've got this new initiative with Lemonade Day, which is going to empower children all over South Africa between the ages of 8 to 16, which is very, very exciting. And we've got some big brands coming on behind us. But that's not what people wanted to know. But it's just I'm passionate about that as well. Tell us, Clem. Clem, in terms of as a South African, you get to travel the world, you get to see what's happening all over the world. I'm 38 years old. I love living here. I've got a nice house. We all live in, we've got nice, we bring up our children. But what do you think that we as South Africans should be doing and thinking about?
Well, my point to every person is you can only do so much. And, if you are actually becoming an entrepreneur or you're helping other people become entrepreneurs in your own neighborhood, for most people, that's what it's all about. It's not about doing something grand. It's about just getting that kind of entrepreneurial mindset going, at the local school or in a local community hall where people do different ventures. You build up from the bottom. You don't have these grand projects from the top. And so my advice to the average South African is, just start at home and see what you can do to start up a business with a new idea, market it, create a personal brand, and go for it. And only 10%, 20% of people are successful as entrepreneurs. But gee, if you think about it, 20% of South Africa is a lot of people. We're talking about it, maybe 7 or 8 million people doing that. And that's the way we do it, collectively, from the ground up, rather than grand projects from the top down.
No, that's fantastic. My last question for the evening, Clem, you and I discussed it last week when we were chatting. In terms of, again, the world economies and the global scenarios, and as personally, my strategy has always been to make sure that I've got my eggs in a few baskets. But what is your take on the different economies and specifically, the difference between the US, Europe, Australasia, and, Japan, others that you think people should possibly be aware of or be understanding about?
Yeah, well, one of the flags which has gone up big time is the grey flag. It's the aging of the world's population. And the two areas most hit by aging populations are Japan, which ever since the property crash of 1990 simply hasn't recovered and is really a flat economy. And Europe is virtually in the same position as Japan. In fact, Italy recorded its lowest number of births last year for the last 150 years. So, Europe, unfortunately, because of its population dynamics, is also moving towards a flat economy. Interestingly, China is now aging because of the one-child policy. And their growth rate, again, if you believe in population driving the economy, is going to slow down. And we're going to sort of see maybe 4 to 5% in 10 years' time economic growth in China rather than the 8 to 10% we've seen in the last few years. The one economy which reflects a young population and which is growing big time is America. And it's because, Americans are still innovative, resilient, they allow immigration, and the only question is whether they can grow in a world that's, increasingly dysfunctional and has this sort of flat economic growth trajectory. My answer is I think it can, because only 10% of America's GDP is exported. 90% is internally created. And so I just think you're going to see a two-speed universe with America fully recovering, even though it's got a big debt problem. I think that it can overcome that, whereas Europe and Japan are going to remain flat.
Fantastic. So, well, Clem, listen, thank you very much for coming online this evening and for giving us your words of wisdom. As I have mentioned, people, can find out all your latest information in your books and also on your website. Is there anything else from your side that I've forgotten or that you think is relevant for everyone to know this evening before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, the one other flag, the sort of game-changing flag that I'm talking about is climate change. And there's a big summit in December in Paris. And certainly word is out that for the first time, America and China and other countries are going to take climate change seriously and look at lowering carbon emissions and, examining carbon footprint of everything that we do on Earth. So this opens a vast opportunity as well as obviously a threat. The threat is to all the industries that produce carbon dioxide, such as the coal industry and coal-burning power stations. The opportunity is alternative energies, and solar energy in particular. So I think the next big wave of technology is going to be around energy as opposed to IT. I mean, IT, microelectronics, has really been the technological revolution of the last 30 years. I think the next big revolution is going to be around energy alternatives.
It's fascinating you say that. I got an email just yesterday about Elon Musk and the fact that he's bringing out batteries for houses that are the equivalent of cell phone batteries and basically will take people off the grid completely and put power stations in America out of business. So it's interesting you said that.
Absolutely. And the real power of his business model is that he's not trying to sell solar panel systems to the American public, because even in the States, it still costs quite a lot. I mean, here it's between 80 and 100,000 rand per house. So the equivalent in the States may be $5,000 or $6,000, and lots of people don't afford that. So he leases the solar panel systems, and he makes sure that the rental is below what is the householder currently pays for electricity. So I think that if somebody examines the leasing model in South Africa, they could make a lot of money.
Well, fantastic. Clem, thanks so much. I know it's late there for you, and I know you split the venue. So thank you very much for your time this evening and for your insights. And I will pass on, any information on the recording to everyone. But thanks very much for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Cheers. Have a good evening. Bye then. So everyone, thank you, thanks RJ for, as we always say in Africa, sometimes we have to be a little bit good at chaos management. Are you there still, RJ? Okay. I think we got you back online, so I don't need to have it on speakerphone. you gotta love being able to dance in Africa. But so in simple terms, that was meant to be, obviously to look at it from a global perspective, and then America, and ultimately one of the reasons we look at Atlanta is that it's one of the fastest growing cities in America. It's got another 1 million people coming in over the next 5 to 10 years. It's one of the most affordable places to live. It's got one of the best tax regimes. And something which most people don't understand, but for me is one of the most important, is I can fly directly from Johannesburg to Atlanta. It's the second biggest airport in the world, and it's pretty easy. So, that's why one of the reasons we really liked Atlanta. But we always say that it doesn't matter how good a market is, it's based on the quality of the partner on the ground. And you were just giving us an update as to what is actually happening on the ground there, Roger. Hang on. RJ, just 2 seconds, mate. I've lost, let me just, what is going on here now? Okay, can everyone hear RJ now clearly? Simon, thank you for the feedback. It is quite difficult to get 4 different people at 4 classes around the world. Can everyone hear RJ now talking clearly? Okay, no, you're not coming through. No, you're not coming through, RJ. Hang on. Okay, so you should be able to, everyone should be able to hear me. I'm just going to put you on speakerphone, RJ. I'm just going to have to do it the same way we do with Clem. So if you just talk now, everyone should be able to hear you talking.
Okay, so we're doing a little test here. Am I coming through, big fella?
Yeah, you should be.
I'm coming through, but maybe just to you?
No, we got you clearly. Everyone says they can hear you now. It's I do apologize to everyone tonight. This is unusual. Obviously, getting 4 people online in 4 different parts of the world is fairly tricky, but we are doing our best based on the technology challenges that we're facing, which are out of our control, by the way. Yep. So anyway, you were saying?
Well, first, it's my understanding that your country now has rolling blackouts for electricity, which makes it very perilous to try to do business here, in my opinion. But going back to what Clem was saying about entrepreneurship, this is the key basically to every country. And he's saying, you asked him, what can our clients do? And he said, basically try to do things at home, become entrepreneurs. That's true, and it's true in every country. However, your clients that I have dealt with, which is somewhere over 100, they are entrepreneurs. They're already entrepreneurs. They've done that part. They're making their money. I would be the first guy to say, make your money in South Africa. And Clem was saying, that it's easy to do a leasing program there. You buy something for X, you run it for this, you get a great return. That's true. But what he didn't discuss, and what I think is very important to your people, is the fact that you guys lost 29% against our currency, I think, in the last 13 months. So if they make their money there, and they keep their money there, they're fine if they never leave the country because they're spending their money and they're making their money in the same country. But if they want to be a world citizen, or if they have goals and dreams and hopes of, coming out of lockdown that you have in South Africa all the time with the wire fences and everything, then they need to think about getting their money into an asset in another currency. Okay? That's the only point that I really had to make. And except this also.
Now tell us, RJ, from someone from someone who's been to South Africa, I know that you came here and you were scared of the mosquitoes giving you AIDS, but Atlanta's a big place, 6 million people. It's a lot bigger than most people understand. How do you find good opportunities on the ground? Some people think that the market might have moved too much now and they still can't find good opportunities, but I'm a big believer that in any market, if you've got the right people on the ground, there's always opportunity. So you were just talking about it before we had to change tack, and in terms of finding the below market value opportunities that you get your hands on in that market.
Yeah, and I'm coming right back to that, but I want to make two more points, Scott. So let me make these points, and I'll jump all over Atlanta, I promise. He talked about the lowest birth rates in Europe in the last 40 years, and that's bad news. But what's worse news is 90% of those births were probably freaking Muslims, okay? There's the real bad issue going on in the world. The other thing Clem said was he was talking about energy as the next big revolution. We see that coming. That's why America is where it is right now. That's why we're on top. Okay, and that's why we're going to stay on top, because we don't need the Arabs anymore for oil. We got our own gas, and buying in those areas in this country is definitely potentially a terrific move, especially now in North Dakota, while the prices are down because oil is down, but it's not going to be down for long. So that's all I wanted to say about Clem. I just wanted to make some points to clarify and make a few distinctions for your listeners. Now back to Atlanta. There is less supply today than there was yesterday, than there was last week, last month, last year. And the reason for that is there's a tremendous demand for houses. The houses are not out of sight. We can still acquire them and rehab them to literally perfect condition for still far below what it costs to build. Scott, as you know, I built 65 houses last year, and I did fine with them because I bought the lots really, really right. But I have no desire to build anymore because it's too expensive. The costs have gone up. Everything I wrote about is true about building. The costs have gone up. The impact fees have gone up. The cost of construction has gone up, and materials. So it comes back to buying existing inventory, newer inventory, okay, in areas where people want to live. As you know, we buy in homeowner neighborhoods because that way we've always got an exit plan to sell to somebody that's going to buy for emotional reasons. That's a homeowner. That's why we like single-family houses, because we can max out our profits significantly better than commercial deals where sophisticated investors buy at a cap rate. So to make sure you got clarity on the question that you asked me, the market is still great. I personally am still acquiring houses and holding them. I bought one today to keep as well, and I bought one last week to keep as well. I think that you can't go wrong in Atlanta if you're buying well-located houses in good neighborhoods. The returns have dropped a little bit, okay? But would you rather have your money making 10% in South Africa or 7 or 8 or 9% in America, where the currency is getting stronger because your investors from South Africa have two plays? It's not just the value of the property, the cash flow, and the upside. They also got the currency play. And the people that bought last year in January basically are 29%, I think, ahead of everybody else in the country that kept their money in South Africa.
No, 100%. So now tell me, in terms of a big question a lot of people ask as well, it's all good and well to buy something, even if it is a good deal a long way away, but how does the management and maintenance get looked after? How do you actually do that?
Scott, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I had a little noise in my office, and I didn't really catch the question.
One of the challenges that people have when they're investing long distance is the full solution. We say buying a house is 1/3 of it, the tax, the structure, and the compliance is 1/3, and the management, the maintenance is 1/3. How do you provide people with an end-to-end solution so that they can have that peace of mind and know that it's being looked after on the ground?
Well, today as we speak, Anthony and Jim are in Las Vegas at a 3-day seminar on property management, comparing best practices with other property managers throughout the country. It really starts, property management is the foundation of this whole business, because you can buy the best located house in the best neighborhood and buy it undervalued. And if you put a bad property manager in and they put in a bad tenant, there goes your investment. It's not going to perform very well. We take this stuff so seriously that we're always trying to get better. And Scott, you don't know this, we haven't talked in over a week, but our collection rates are significantly higher than they were last year. Our times to vacancy, we're under 3% on stuff that's ready.
that's on the market, and our turnovers have been significantly quicker. So we don't ever sit complacent on this side of the water. We're always trying to get better. The minute you're satisfied with yourself, the minute you start sliding backwards, that doesn't happen in this company because we just always know that, hey, we might have been good today, but I bet we can be better tomorrow.
Okay, and RJ, my last thing from my side, the last question. I'm conscious of the time here because it has got quite late this evening, but what I'm really excited about is this new offer that we're launching in the next couple of days, where we're going to package 10 houses together. I'm going to personally invest in it. You're going to personally invest in it. We're going to, you're going to help Yaku and the team, find 10 properties in terms of, that ultimately are going to come together and use through the Wealth Migrate platform. Why are you getting involved in that, and why are you excited about that?
Well, first of all, I'm one of those guys that I don't sell other people's stuff. I believe in what I do. If I didn't believe in what I do, I wouldn't do it because that's the way I'm hardwired. And this basically, you asked me to put my money where my mouth is. I said, yeah, I'll put mine there. You put yours in. And I have no problem investing in my own houses and writing a check for the stuff that we're buying and delivering it at the price that you said. I have no problem doing it. I'm still involved. I'm still in the deal. I'm trying to hold on to as many houses as I possibly can because houses, well-located houses, which all of these are. And by the way, the 10 houses have been selected there in Yaku's email box. And there's some phenomenal properties in that deal. Just phenomenal properties. So we want to get people on board. We want to show them how it works. And once you take this out to the masses one time, it's going to be very easy going forward for me to continually load the box with houses.
No, fantastic. Well, listen, RJ, thank you so much for your time. I know that we're looking forward to getting you out to South Africa in June at our major event. And also, I'm sure in the future, I'd like to set up a one-on-one webinar where we're not trying to talk over the cell phone and have all these different people connected. But and for those people that go on the buyer's trip in March, obviously they'll get to get on the ground with you. But thanks so much for the update, and we'll certainly be passing everything through. I am conscious of time. I said to people we'd be finishing up by about 8:30, so I just want to look to be wrapping up. But thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to investing more with you, certainly, in these offers that we've got coming online in the next couple of days.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the line. To all the people in South Africa, I hope you guys have a great day, great evening. I know it's a little bit later there. And if you ever have a direct question for me, you can send it through any of Scott's people, and they will send it directly to me, or you can email me right at rjp@buycashflowproperties.com. I'm more than happy to help. We love working with you guys. Scott, thanks, Pot. Look forward to catch up a little later.
Cool, man. Well, thank you very much, and awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was RJ, and apologies for some of you in terms of all he was talking about was the populations around the world. But certainly fascinating. Mark, to answer your question, we've got around the accredited investors, and really, it allows people to be investing. So, that as an international investor, I think one of the things that's most important and that comes through very, very strongly is that most people look at a deal and look at the investment and the numbers. I think one of the most important things that we learned from our partners is that it's not only about the numbers, but actually the people behind the deal that makes, that's what ultimately makes the sense. We've learned that good investments are common and that they are basically a dime a dozen. What really counts is having someone in charge who has the passion, experience, and integrity. And so our logic is that if you don't share that view with us and that you don't believe that it's about the people and the quality of the people on the ground, then it's probably not going to work between us in terms of what is actually happening. If you believe that it's based on the quality of the person on the ground, then and you value the people that are involved over the investments, then really, we believe that there's something that we should be talking about. We've seen lots of corporate robots that only really care about the numbers. But ultimately, from our experience, it is about the people on the ground and not about the corporate robots. One of the things that happens recently in terms of what happened is that once we build a relationship with people, and we just had a recent opportunity where Henny Besaidenout, our chairman, actually went to Australia with Michiel, our business development officer. They found a really good deal, which was a student accommodation in Brisbane. We require $36 million in equity. And Henny got on the phone and spoke to a few friends on Friday. 5 of them have actually committed. One of them is actually on an aeroplane in Australia as we speak. He's literally flown to Australia. And I mean, that deal has been taken down literally by 5 friends. And, that's very much that whole inner circle and people that have built up the relationship and been working with us for years in terms of what's happening. Also, obviously, with the challenges that we've got with Eskom and our politicians and a lot of the uncertainty, we as a business, and to answer Simon's questions, yes, we've had a couple of challenges tonight from a technology point of view. I love the fact that from a technology point of view, we can talk to one person sitting in Atlanta, one person who's at an event and been presenting with Murray and Roberts, and James, who's in Port Elizabeth, myself, who's in Knysna, and South Africans all over South Africa and probably around the world. I think it's fascinating what's happened with technology. And rather than looking at the downside, and it has been frustrating, trust me, as the aeroplane pilot, you can imagine what it's like being in the cockpit. But the bottom line is we want to share this information. We're passionate about it. But yet there's 30,000 property professionals in South Africa, and there's only 8 that can talk with a level of expertise with over a decade's worth of experience in the UK, the US, and the USA, both in residential and in commercial. And that is really our team. And the challenge that we've got is that our time is so limited. We only focus on quality opportunities. We're not a flea market. There's plenty of opportunities out there. There's plenty of rubbish. I know Yaku, who's our CEO, literally sent us some information about a company that's just come into South Africa. It's helping people invest in Detroit and Melbourne and student accommodation in Manchester. It's rubbish. I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. But because of that, we only have the time to deal with investors who know what they want and are prepared to take action and get started. And that's why our investor strategy sheet is so important, because at the end of the day, we respect our investors and our investors respect us. And that people, once they've done the investor strategy sheet, are clear as to what they want. And once they're clear as to what they want, we can help them find it, because we're not an estate agent. We don't peddle product. We ultimately understand what people are looking for, and then we provide them with solutions. The big problem we've got, though, is that the market is moving fast. These opportunities do not last long on the market. And so what we've agreed with RJ is that the current opportunities that we've got that we will be launching in the next couple of days will be available till the 27th of February, so the following Friday, where we'll be taking them off. And from there, he'll be passing them on to other investors. And it's whether people want to invest or not, that's fine. We've been on plenty of buyers trips. People take action, they don't take action, no problem. But I just wanted to make people aware that if they see something, unfortunately, we were only able to tie up RJ in terms of the market and the speed that the American market moves until Friday the 27th. And the last thing that I think is really important, that's a real challenge for us South Africans, is that we tend to do things slowly here. The fastest that we do a property investment in South Africa is maybe 3 months. Well, in America, they do it in 4 days. We tend to tell people it takes 4 to 6 weeks. The reason being is that us South Africans are slow. But it affects our reputation with our partners, and we are constantly working on our reputation and our delivery. So we want to work with people that are prepared to do things right, timelessly, no games, no missing transfers, just a clean process. And what we ensure is that we ensure a fair price, and that ultimately that there's going to be a deal. And if people are prepared to play by the rules, then we can certainly assist in terms of what is actually happening. So in terms of the next steps, we've got a breakfast next week around the country. We've got Pretoria on Monday. We've got Johannesburg on Tuesday. We've got Durban on Wednesday. And we've got Cape Town on Thursday. And what we'll be doing there is going into a lot more detail in terms of the why. So why do we invest? How? So very much the how we actually invest. And finally, the what in terms of the different products. I'm going to spend a lot more time reviewing the markets. I'm going to make sure it's an open forum, because at the end of the day, I can talk till the cows come home about the different markets, having extensive investment. But I want people to come with their questions. What I get most interested in is when I get asked questions when I stand on the dance floor and I can give you the answers. So that's really what inspires me. What we're going to be launching is a new product with financing for individual houses, which is really, really exciting. And the loan to values in America now are going to be 60 to 75%. The new rates that Yaku's managed to negotiate are 8.9%. So they're coming down dramatically. A term fixed for 30 years. There's no repayment penalty. And this immediately increases the IRRs by from about 12% to about 18%. And in terms of where we actually are. We're also going to be launching our package of 10 properties, where the minimum investment will be $10,000. And if anyone is prepared as an international investor to sign the indemnity as an international investor, to be part of the inner circle and to abide by the SEC regulations, then they would be compliant and would be able to participate and invest in 10 quality assets that, as I said, I personally will be putting my own money in, RJ will be putting his own money in, and most of our team are actually going to be investing in. And then for some of you, this is more of a by private invite, but we've managed to secure another wonderful commercial medical opportunity in America that Michiel is going to be heading up, along with the trip he's just got back from Henny in Australia, and they've got the opportunity in Australia. And what we're going to be doing is organizing private dinners. On Monday night, it'll be in Sandton. On Tuesday night, it'll be in Durban. And on Thursday night, it'll be in Cape Town. And that'll be by private invite only for more sophisticated clients that want to invest in commercial opportunities. If you are interested, please just type in the word commercial and Michiel will be able to get hold of you. I think one of the things that we're really, really excited about, and it was one of our team members, Ricky, that came up with it, but is our whole campaign around empower yourself. We truly believe there's only two things you need if you want to live a great life in South Africa. The first one is a generator, so that you're not stuck to what is actually happening in terms of Eskom and load shedding. And ultimately, it's owning a first world asset so that you can have first world income, you can have wealth preservation, a plan B, and peace of mind. And so for a limited number of investors, we will be able to, we've secured some generators for those people that buy the first 10 houses, and for those people that invest the first $100,000 through Wealth Migrate, or the first 10 direct houses through IPS, we will actually be throwing in a free generator. And everyone that goes to the campaign, Empower Yourself, please watch your emails. It's coming out in the next couple of days. You will go in the draw for 2 tickets to the semi-final and the final of the Rugby World Cup in London. I haven't missed a World Cup since 1995, and we will certainly be there, and we look forward to you being part of it. And the beauty is, the more you share with the friends, the more entries you actually get. And so in simple terms, what I personally have from my offshore investments and my offshore income is peace of mind. I cannot explain to you how wonderful that actually is. I have got wealth preservation. You know, the Rand lost a whole lot just in the last couple of days while Zuma was and his cronies were making a great show in Parliament. And I thought to myself, well, wow, you know, my money's sitting overseas, and actually it's, you know, I've actually managed to get a little bit wealthier by South African standards by doing nothing. And ultimately, as a plan B, you know, whether I can live here for the rest of my life, whether my son can live here for the rest of our life as our family, or whether we move to Australia or the US, really is not a challenge for us. We've got the passports, we've got the global wealth, we can do it. And that's what that freedom is all about. That is what we are so passionate to share with people, so that you too can have the freedom to make the decisions you want, the freedom, like my uncle, to choose where you want to live, where you want your son to go to school, to buy your way into whatever country you want, to go to whatever university you want, and ultimately to retire and not have to work for other people in other countries in terms of what it is and what you're doing. And the last thing I would say to people is, you know, we've all got a little bit of doom and gloom at the moment, and so let's light up South Africa. You know, please share this with your friends. Go and tell them about it when you get the Empower Yourself campaign. It's all about power, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can ultimately have the power. You can have the power, the physical electricity power here in South Africa, and you can have the power of owning an offshore asset. And so, you know, share it with people. Let's light up South Africa. Let's get some positivity back. There's 2 types of people in South Africa. They're the people who complain and are constantly negative, and they're those people that come out and they find solutions. And just like tonight, we had a challenge. I think it's a classic example, and I really want to compliment my team. You know, Brendan, thank you very much for the help. You know, went out, found Clem, found a solution, got him online. And, you know, yes, it might be a little bit ad hoc, but unfortunately, sometimes in life, you have to find a solution. Most people in life sit back and complain and do nothing. We don't. We take action and find solutions. And that's what Empower Yourself is all about. It's a campaign to motivate South Africans. It's a campaign to light up South Africa. And we hope that you will share it with your friends and bring back some humor to South Africa, some hope to South Africa, and most importantly, give South Africans a future and a possibility. You know, we joke with people, but most of us know Braveheart and old Mel Gibson, and we say they can take our electricity, but they can't take our freedom. And so if you want to come to our breakfasts, you can either go online at ipsinvest.com, you can go to the events section, or go straight to Eventbrite, ipsinvest.eventbrite.com. The breakfasts, as I said to you, are next week. For those of you that want to set up appointments, we will be pre-booking appointments for people that fill in the investment strategy form. Again, we'll be in Pretoria on Monday, we'll be in Johannesburg on Tuesday, we'll be in Durban on Wednesday, and we will be in Cape Town on Thursday. I will be presenting and spending time with our partners, Grant Thornton and their entire board on Friday before I fly back. I did mention we really are overwhelmed. We've got a small team of people. It takes a large level of sophistication. And so if you can pre-book or send it through, if you do want an appointment, just type in appointment, and we will be sending a follow-up email, and people will be able to take action. For those people that have spoken about commercial, particularly our current clients and people that have been investing, Michiel will be contacting you. It would be lovely to have a dinner with you to talk about the current commercial opportunities and ultimately what is going on in the markets and what is coming in the future. And obviously myself and Jaco will also be there to be able to talk. And then also for our current clients, we always say to people in property, if you think that it's going to be 100% plain sailing, then you've never been involved in property. So sometimes there are challenges, sometimes there's new wants or needs or anything else. And so in Gauteng on Monday afternoon from 1 until 3 p.m. at our Centurion office, we will be having an existing client get-together to discuss anything that's going on. Myself and Jaco will be there. On Wednesday in Durban, it will be from 1 to 3 p.m. at the same venue. And on Friday morning from 9 till 11 p.m. at the Cape Town office, we will also be having a client get-together. So that's anything. We want to be talking to our clients. We want to be interacting with our clients. If anyone has any problems or challenges, we want to know about it. We're about to launch our private wealth solution, and Jaco and the team want to make sure that we're on top of it and providing one of the greatest experiences we possibly can in terms of offshore investing, the true private banking solution. And the last thing I would say to it is that this Empower Yourself campaign is coming out. We've cherry-picked some of the best investments. We've got new financing for direct investment. We've got this package of 10 houses for people that want to invest as little as $10,000. And really what's really exciting is that that'll be launching in the next couple of days. Well, to be fair, it'll actually launch next week at the breakfast. I might consider sending out an email to everyone who's been on the webinar. In fact, I will send out an email to everyone who's been on the webinar to give you a little bit of a heads up prior to everyone else, to say sorry for some of the technical difficulties we've had tonight. But for our current clients, just to let you know, for those of you online, we will certainly give you at least 72 hours heads up so that you get access to the best opportunities first. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything from my side. I'd love to be able to say that we're available for everybody. We can help everybody, and we've got countless opportunities. Unfortunately, we don't. We look after the people that have been working with us for the amount of time and build relationships first, and then we look to expand that. But, the whole purpose of the breakfast next week is come along, get more information, meet the team. If you don't like what you hear, fine. If you do, you can invest. And for some people, you can get involved on coming on one of our buyers trips, whether it's to the USA, to Australia, or even to the UK later this year when we go and watch the Rugby World Cup finals. So if you're interested in buyers trips, just type in USA buyers trip, Australia buyers trip, or UK buyers trip, and we'll be able to give you a lot more information. That's all from my side. I'm not sure if there's any questions. There's been a lot coming through tonight, and it's really been quite a long webinar. I do apologize. So Yanni says the email will go out first thing tomorrow with a call to action. So I'll certainly be sending that. Thank you very much, Yanni and Steve. I see that you've sent the UK buyers trip. If there are things that people want, as I said, I'm going to the UK on the 5th of March. I am presenting at MIPIM, which is the biggest property event in the world. We've been asked to come and present on international markets, crowdfunding, and how those three major forces are combining to create that tsunami of change. It's really incredible what is happening. And as a South African, I truly believe we understand why people invest internationally more than anyone else. And when you consider that the Chinese just last year moved $15 billion, there's 26 million Chinese people that have invested $1 million or more per month. And that's due to grow by 20% year on year. That's really what is happening with MIPIM and the exciting thing. And for those of you who want a quick heads up, We haven't launched it yet, but I want to let you know about it. The 3rd and 4th of June, we have a massive event, Real Estate Crowdfunding Africa. It's taking place 3rd and 4th of June in Sandton. It's the very first real estate crowdfunding event in Africa, and it'll be taking place at the Hilton Hotel 3rd and 4th of June for those of you who want. So there's plenty of information, plenty of events coming up, plenty more webinars. There's a breakfast next week. There's the buyers trips in March. There's more webinars in May. There's SAPOA in May, and then there's the real estate crowdfunding event in early June. Are there any questions? Anything that I haven't answered? Any thoughts? Any concerns? Or anything else that anyone would like me to run through? So Wendy asked, why is it we need to dial into America to get sound on our phones when this is a South African webinar? Wendy, the reason being is we use an American system, but you should just be able to link in over the internet. Unfortunately, they don't have a South African line. Arthur said, don't forget the UK specialist. No, not at all, Arthur. And that's why I'm coming over to see you in 2 weeks to hopefully uncover some great opportunities in the UK in terms of where things are going and what is actually happening. Steve said, be good to hear from the investors. Where's it gone now? Steve, where's your thing gone? Sorry, just 2 seconds. I'm trying to read your... So Steve said, it'd be good to hear from investors as well, the people who took action years ago. That's fine, Steve. Generally at the breakfast, we have a number of investors, but certainly can organize referrals and testimonials. We've got literally hundreds of people that you can talk to. Margaret said USA, UK, and Oz buyers trips, so we can certainly help. We've got the different people with the buyers trips. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions in terms of where they were. Okay, so Margaret says that you didn't curse too badly, Brendan, so that's all good. Mark says, I wanted to do this way around long time ago. That's fine, Mark. We've finally figured it out with the lawyers. I wish I could tell you that the legislation, both in South Africa and America, was easy. At the end of the day, our full focus is to be locally legal, act globally. And so we're consistently jumping through hoops to make sure that we're achieving that and that we are legal by the legal laws of different countries. But we have managed to solve that problem. Okay, let's just see if there's any more questions here. Please remember to see passport info. Steve said, cool. Pierre said, any progress in buying in your personal name as an investor? Yes, Pierre. And also through the Wealth Migrate one, you can buy in your personal name. You can buy in your personal name, but we don't recommend it for structural reasons if you're buying your own house. Dieter said, is there a USA buyers trip in July? There is, Dieter. I think if Yanni or Jaco could write up the dates, but I don't have my calendar in front of me straight away, but I know it's the 3rd week. Hang on 2 seconds. It's the 3rd week in July are the dates for the buyers trip in July. Any recommendations for young South Africans getting started and investing abroad? Yeah, very much so, Simon. I think, firstly, well done for being online. 2 hours of sitting in front of your computer is a long haul. So, I think that's really good. I would get the book by our president, Dr. Dolph de Roos, Real Estate Riches. It was certainly the book that made the biggest impact for me at the age of 19 and when I started doing my first projects. I think try and go on as many courses as you can. I recommend Dr. Hannes Dreyer here in South Africa. I like the fact that he's conservative and based on income and not funny tax structures with complications and capital growth that's caused the bankruptcy of more people in South Africa than anything else. And the last thing I would say to you is that, no one ever learned to swim by reading a book. At some point, you've got to get involved. But really, with the advent of crowdfunding, it's super exciting. You can sign up for our inner circle, which will be launching in the next couple of weeks, where ultimately we're not going to be teaching people. We're going to be helping them invest with us, and they'll be learning on the job. So you'll be able to follow us. You'll be able to do all our due diligence with us. You'll be able to look at all our research. You'll be able to use all our ways and methodologies, and ultimately you'll be able to partner with us in exactly the same way, treat it as exactly the same. So it's quite exciting what is happening. Mari said, what is the possibility of a replay of the webinar? Mari, I did record it, so if everything worked according to plan, I will be putting it up on YouTube, so you should be able to do it. And I will also be speaking to Clem about looking to redo the part from himself. There was a lot of information tonight, and it was a bit of a challenge for me. When I was ready for him at 7:30, we couldn't get hold of him. So Paula says, will you be sending out a recording? So I think I've just answered that. If there's any more questions further up, I'm sorry, they're coming through quick and fast. If there's any more, if you want to just type it out again, I will stay online for the next 2 minutes. I am flat out, you won't believe it, but I've got a meeting with the Americans at 9 o'clock tonight. I've got two with the Americans, and then I start first thing tomorrow morning with meetings in Asia. It really is exciting what is happening around the world at the moment. And as a South African, we're very passionate about helping South Africans, achieve this freedom that we spoke of. And I just want to remind people of the two different people who are very personal and very close to me in my life. The first one is my father, who unfortunately didn't plan and was forced to leave with a shirt on his back and ultimately arrive in South Africa. And really, immigrating in the first generation is really, really difficult. I'm very grateful for the upbringing I had. I got a wonderful education from him and my mom. But at the end of the day, life was very hard for him. My uncle did it completely differently. He stayed in the country. He came up with a plan B. He bought first world assets and first world income, and that allowed him the freedom to do anything he wanted, whenever he wanted, many years later. And all that I implore people to do is to empower yourself and to make sure that you give yourself that freedom so that you too can make those choices. Heidi says, how many people was joining this webinar? We've had a couple of hundred on tonight, Hindali, so there's been a lot of South Africans that are interested. Missed the beginning of Clem Sunter's broadcast, so would love to hear it. That's fine, Margaret, we'll send it. Greg said, hi, Scott, can existing investors in the USA benefit from the new finance model? Very much so, Greg. If you can speak to Yaku, they're looking at ultimately finding solutions for clients. So they are working through them. And as you know, for the last couple of years, it's been an uphill battle consistently to make sure that we're finding good finance solutions. And this is not the end. We will continue. It's one of the reasons why we like to get stuff with no prepayment penalties. And certainly the structures we're putting together where we're buying portfolios of property, the consistent attitude will be to get the best finance we possibly can. Simon said you did not disappoint. I think I rather let yourself down. That's fair enough, Simon. I agree with you. It's very, very frustrating when things don't go according to plan. But sometimes when it comes to technology, it is what it is. I'm not sure if anyone had a better suggestion. I had it set up with Clem. I phoned him today. We agreed it was at 7:30. James and I finished on time at 7:30. I phoned him at 7:30, and it was going straight to voicemail. I'm not quite sure what I could have done as a backup plan. But anyway, thanks to the team for helping out. And Yanni says, speak to Yanni for new finance. I'll let them know. But I think most importantly, come to the breakfast if you're interested, or certainly if you're one of the current clients like yourself, Greg. Come along to the investor, the current investor solutions, which we will be sending out by email for people or for people that are invited to the dinner. I really look forward to seeing our platinum clients at the dinner. It'll be fantastic to spend some time with them. So thanks for all the feedback, everyone. It really is appreciated. And I think the last thing that I would say, if we don't have any more questions, I do need to duck because I've got this meeting starting at 9 o'clock. But we're living in very exciting times. Often, as I said to you, chaos presents a huge amount of opportunity. Clem Sunter mentioned, I can't understand why more people are not getting into solar panels or generators or finding solutions for people to be able to look at it. But as I said, there are some challenges in South Africa. We focused on the solutions. I would ask you to share this with your friends. Let's light up South Africa. Let's empower yourself. Let's empower the country. Let's go out there and make a difference. And the last thing I would say is thank you to the team. Thank you for everyone being online. And most importantly, go away from this webinar with a smile on your face as a proud South African, because no matter what happens, no matter what our future is, we want to make sure that you have the freedom to live the life that you want, to remain a proud South African, and to have a wonderful future going forward. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I look forward to seeing most of you next week around the country. Good night.